And now that the government is reopened and this threat to our economy is removed, all of us need to stop focusing on the lobbyists and the bloggers and the talking heads on radio and the professional activists who profit from conflict and focus on what the majority of Americans sent us here to do. And that's grow this economy, create good jobs, strengthen the middle class, educate our kids, lay the foundation for broad-based prosperity, and get our fiscal house in order for the long haul.
My gosh, every time I hear him speak, I want to cry, because if we had a media in this country, he would be exposed for what he is. But there is a man out there, at least, who is doing his best, has done his best. He's written a great bestseller, which is now out in paperback. And it's The Amateur, Barack Obama in the White House. And the author in question is the great Ed Klein. Hey, Ed, how are you, sir?
Hey, Steve. Great to be with you.
Yes, great to talk to you. We had many sessions on WOR, but now we are in the new show, and it's a pleasure to have you on. I played that soundbite because that was from today. He didn't do the name calling, but of course you wrote a piece at FoxNews.com the other day, and I mean you're just right on with how the presidency is no place for amateurs. But let's start first with the book. It was Bill Clinton, I believe, that you took the name of the book from. He had called, in addition to calling him a Chicago street thug politician, he also called Barack Obama an amateur, correct?
That's right. He was in Chappaqua with his wife, daughter, and some friends, and he was talking about how Obama did not know how to lead, and he said Obama is an amateur, and that's where I got the title for the book.
Yeah, and he was he was so right in the minds of so many. Talk about this latest escapade and what it shows you. I mean, you made such great points in the piece, and I just think the Republicans are blowing it, and folks are going to get tired of hearing me say this, but I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. What the Republicans should have said was, Ed, okay, yeah, we're waving the white flag, but we're waving the white flag because we have a president for the first time who will not negotiate, who is willing to send us into economic chaos over something as small as delaying a medical device tax. He's willing to let us fall off the cliff. So, yeah, it looks like we're surrendering, but we're doing it for the American people.
Absolutely, Steve. And, here's a president who at one point in his career was actually teaching constitutional law, if you recall.
Oh, yeah.
And he doesn't seem to have the first idea what the Constitution says, which is quite simply that there are three separate and equal branches of government. In order for the president to get anything done, he needs to, I hate to use this word, Mr. Obama, negotiate with Congress. Anything done, he needs to, I hate to use this word, Mr. Obama, negotiate with Congress for this shutdown and for the debt ceiling crisis and all of the media coverage. But in fact, if the president had been willing to negotiate with the Republicans and on such things as, for instance, the medical device tax, on such things as the exemption for Congress people and their staffs for Obamacare, this would never have happened. But this president, unlike every single president we've had in the past, either refuses to negotiate or does everything by executive order.
Right, but Ed, here's what he would tell you. I'm negotiating. I'm just not going to give you anything. Mm-hmm. And when Chris Wallace has the Secretary of the Treasury on and says, every other president has negotiated on the debt ceiling, it's commonplace, and here's how it happened. He looks at Chris Wallace with a straight face and said, I don't think you have your history right. Yeah. So they'll tell you up is down is up, and if you don't believe it, there's something wrong with you.
That's right. Well, I was interviewed the other day by the New York Post, and they asked me about where this strategy...
You see, Obama's coming for you now. I hear the siren. Go ahead, only kidding.
He is, yeah. Well, where I live, there's sirens all the time here in New York. And they're all coming from the new mayor to come, Mr.
Oh, we can get into that and his statements on Muslims yesterday if you want. But I'm in New York. We're right with you here. But go ahead.
Anyway, on Obama, it is my reporting that the decision on Obama's part not to negotiate one iota was something that he devised alone in the residence, the second floor family quarters of the White House along with his wife and Valerie Jarrett.
Right.
Now, people tell me, oh, you're exaggerating how much influence and power Valerie Jarrett has. I don't think you can overestimate the amount of influence and power she has. He has said, the president has said, I don't make any decision without first passing it by Valerie Jarrett. That's almost a direct quote from the president. And in this case, the strategy to demonize the Republicans over the shutdown, just like demonizing Mitt Romney and before him McCain during election campaigns, was a strategy devised in the family quarters by these three people, the president, the first lady, and Valerie Jarrett, in order to make the Republicans take all the blame in the hope of flipping the House in 2014 to the Democrats.
And you hold Valerie Jarrett at least responsible for coming up with the idea, and of course Obama would have to go along with it, of using the incendiary language of kidnappers and bomb throwers and ransom takers and holding gun to the head, the whole thing.
Yeah, and terrorists, and calling Republicans terrorists whom you don't negotiate with, and then today coming out and saying, oh, it's the people on talk radio who are using all this incendiary language.
Right.
And
Well, again, the sky is green and the grass is blue.
I know.
And if you don't buy that, then there's something wrong with you. But look, again, as I said, right after the soundbite that we played, Ed, and by the way, we're talking to Ed Klein, who's got his great book, The Amateur, Barack Obama in the White House, out in paperback now.
With a new introduction, by the way.
Yes, I was going to point that out, and I'm glad you did. So everyone should get a hold of it. But, I said if we had an honest media, not only could this man not have won in 2008, but, there's no way the Republicans could be blamed for this, but I blame the Republicans for not defending themselves. However, you were victimized by this media. I mean, when your book came out, all kinds of accusations were hurled against you, and the media didn't welcome you on all their morning and news shows either.
That's right. I was demonized by the media. But, it's a very interesting thing about this word, the amateur, which Bill Clinton came up with and I use as the title of my book. I've noticed that in recent months, even some of my left-wing friends, like Joe Klein and others at Time Magazine and other places, have referred to him as an amateur because you just look at how he handled the Syrian chemical weapons business with the red line that suddenly didn't become a red line, and the so-called pivot to Asia that's never happened. You can go on and on. This president is a great campaigner, wonderful at hurling invective against his opponents, but when it comes to leading, he's out to lunch.
Let me ask you this, Ed. There's some controversy swirling around Larry Klayman and some others who held a press conference. I think they were at that the World War II Veterans Memorial last weekend. Sarah Palin was there and others. And Klayman said something to the effect of, put down the Quran, Mr. President, negotiate. And he caught a lot of flack for that. I'm not defending it in any way, but I want to ask you about, you look at the president's support of the Muslim Brotherhood. I mean, I could get you Steve Emerson and others who could talk about by name those that they believe are infiltrators from the Muslim Brotherhood, the nonviolent wing of the Muslim Brotherhood, who are in our Homeland Security Department, who are in our FBI, who are in every department that you could name and imagine. And then you look at our policy. Yeah, I mean, we support in Libya. We're now in Syria. We're fighting alongside, against the law, by the way, of Al-Qaeda. In Egypt, we've now cut off most of the aid to the Egyptian military because Obama wants the Muslim Brotherhood back in there. Let me ask you. You know more about this guy than anybody probably. What is going on here?
It's very hard to say because it's clear to me that talking to President Obama's longtime minister, the Reverend Jeremiah Wright, that Obama, was clearly steeped in Muslim orthodoxy as a child. There's no question about that. And that, according to the Reverend Jeremiah Wright, he introduced Obama to Christianity. So I would say that at the very least...
That was done, I'm sorry to interrupt, that was done, I think even Richard Wolff of MSNBC said he needed a church when he got to Chicago as a community activist for some street cred.
That's exactly right. And, it's hard to say to what degree he has sympathy for the Muslims, except every action he's taken since he became president, including his speech in Cairo, until today, indicates that he feels an affinity for Muslims and finds it very hard to talk about Muslim extremism.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with him having an affinity for Muslims, and I believe he's a Christian because he says he's a Christian. But my problem is, the Muslim Brotherhood to me are not your average Muslims, and the killing of Christians, Ed. I mean, the killing of Christians all over the world, and this administration is silent.
What? You don't hear a peep from Barack Obama.
Nothing. Nothing. I don't get that. I mean, if it were the other way around, not only Barack Obama, the media.
I know it is. It's a crime, no question about it.
And so what do we have to look forward to for the next 3 years? I mean, what's going to happen in the next 3 months when we run into this all over again?
The way I see the way politics operates in Washington, if you humiliate your opponent, rub his nose in the ground, and call him all kinds of names, as Obama has done with the Republicans, that's never really forgotten. And instead of creating an atmosphere in which there can be collegiality and compromise, he's created a worse atmosphere of hostility than he had even before the government shutdown.
Yeah, and you know what he did yesterday? Much to the chagrin of David Gergen on CNN and the crew that I was watching, who couldn't be bigger supporters of Obama, when they found out he was going to make a statement before the House actually voted. They said, why? Why would he do that? Why would he try? Why would he risk alienating even one voter? Why would and does anybody in the White House understand you don't do this? But he did it anyway.
Steve, it's hard to say this because it seems so outrageous, but I truly believe this. I think that the shutdown was something that he welcomed, that he encouraged, that he provoked, and that he kept going because he saw it as in his interest with the media playing it as an anti-Republican problem.
I agree with you, but do you also think, and this is a differentiation, and I'd love to hear your opinion, do you also think that he would have welcomed going over the cliff, so to speak, over nothing, something as ridiculous as as an extension, or the medical device tax would have taken this country down and the suffering of the people with it? Because don't forget, this House passed bills to keep kids with cancer getting treatment, to fund veterans benefits, to let D.C. run on their own money. And this president and Harry Reid said no. So for 21 days almost, or whatever it is, 16 days, 18 days, that none of those things were funded because of a stubborn president.
That's right. And I think he would have allowed the country to go over the cliff. And I think if he did, he would have gotten on television and pointed a finger and said it's all those extremists' fault.
Yep.
And and if you want to change the nature of this country and make it better, you better vote for Democrats in 2014.
Absolutely. Hey, Ed, listen, best of luck with the paperback version with the new introduction of the amateur Barack Obama in the White House. And we'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
That's Ed Klein, ladies and gentlemen, former, by the way, editor-in-chief of the New York Times Magazine section. Yeah, I pulled out from May 22nd of last year. Newsbusters. Okay, our friends at Newsbusters. Randy Hall wrote this. Ignoring Ed Klein's The Amateur, media once again show blatant double standard. He, according to Nexus search of TV shows and transcripts, not one of them, I guess he's talking about the elite media. Okay, not one of them has interviewed him on air. His name hasn't been mentioned by ABC, CBS, CNN, NBC, MSNBC. Gave him tiny mention in a segment condemning conservatives for opposing Obama, but didn't talk about him except in passing. The closest any network, this is a year ago when the hardcover came out, the closest any network came to actually discussing the book was ABC News, which included an item in the section of the network's website entitled The Note, which is produced by Michael Falcone anyway. It was just an offhanded quote. So much like they ignore the things they don't want to talk about, no matter how big or important or newsworthy or full of information and accusations these books are, take Stephen Jimenez again, who we had on this show live, who wrote a book changing the whole scenario involving the death of Matthew Shepard. Again, you could say the same thing. Not one mention by ABC, NBC, MSNBC. None of them. Folks, we are, well, if you listen to the show, you know the problem we have with the media. You can't rely on the media. You have to educate yourself. And that must be why you are here at the Steve Malzberg Show, the center of self-education on Newsmax TV and radio.